This is B of C Live, the video and podcast series of Business of Cannabis. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com. Coming up on our B of C Live, a conversation with Cameron Brown of Honeypot, which is a multi-store cannabis retailer based here in Ontario. He's going to talk about the upcoming annual general meeting of the Retail Cannabis Council of Ontario. Here is this conversation with Cameron Brown of Honeypot. Cameron Brown, thanks for being here.
Jay, thanks for having me.
Always good to have you. I was looking back on my calendar. You've been a relatively frequent guest on Business of Cannabis. Some would say too frequent. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody would say that. But the first time we talked, I think, was August 2019. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. Probably right after the chaos of opening up in 2019.
I was looking back because we just passed April 1st, which is when the Honeypot on Queen Street opened in 2019, right?
Yep.
And that seems like a million years ago.
I'd say at least 10 years ago, definitely.
I've definitely aged 10 years.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the blonde to go gray at this point. So I give it another year. That's right. That's what cannabis does.
At this pace, it might even be sooner than that. But from April 1st, 2019, when you opened, and then in August when we chatted, obviously the growth of retail, especially in Ontario, has been enormous. Before we get to what we're talking about, tell me about the sort of ever expanding footprint of Honeypot and sort of where you guys are right now.
Yeah, it's been such a massive boom, especially since such a difficult time for small business. So to see the 25 stores or 24 stores in 2019, 200 stores in 2020 to now over 1,400 stores coming into 2022 is huge. And, we've been lucky enough to open back up in April and continue our expansion and our brand, not only in the city of Toronto, but into some other cities as well, Hamilton, Niagara, Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo. So it's been a lot of fun, a very busy 3 years, but I could say the same for every other retailer in the province at this point.
Yeah. And it's good for consumers. I mean, we see the numbers, like the more legal cannabis stores there are, the more illegal cannabis people buy. That seems to be a trend we can all get behind. The challenge to doing business is a different question, but the fact that people like legal cannabis stores is, I guess, not debatable, which is great. And part of why we wanted to connect is that you are part of the Retail Cannabis Council of Ontario. It's like a trade group, and you have your AGM coming up in June, which sounds used to be like talk about an AGM and people getting together, people be bored, but like actually people are going to get together in June for an AGM and it's going to be awesome. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, that's right. As we start to see the scale up, a couple of retailers got together and said, we need a voice for independent retailers. There's a lot going on from the licensed producer side, but as we moved away from, 25 or 200 people, we figured we needed a voice that the retailers could be heard. We have, government policy that's affecting our livelihood on a daily basis and changes, especially during COVID, of lockdown, non-lockdown, essential, non-essential. How can we start to get involved in what's happening with the businesses that we're growing right now? So about a year ago, we started to put this together and we've been building it since. We've got a really good membership base and we're looking to get out to more retailers and include them in that conversation to have a say in what their day-to-day lives should look like when it comes to government policy. So we do have our AGM coming up. We're going to be doing at Hotel X in June on the 10th and the 11th. And like you said, first event in person. We really wondered how we were going to do this, and the first year is going to be at this point a really good size. So we've had a ton of feedback of people looking to get involved and get in person and become a part of some of the subcommittees that we've been working on.
It's exciting. I mean, it sounds funny to be like, people are actually going to be being at a meeting together. And I think if you ran this sometime prior to 2020, like why are Jay and Cameron talking about that? But really to be able to convene with your people, independent retailers in Ontario, really after this huge boom of retailers opened up. And, there's always work to do from like an association perspective, an industry perspective, to have your voices heard. And things have changed even dramatically since then, right? I mean, first it was allow you to do curbside delivery, curbside pickup and delivery. Then it was e-commerce and all those things, and they became permanent and part and parcel because of COVID. But it does change the dynamic for independent retailers overall. And actually, as a line of business, like I wonder when you guys were starting up Honey Pot, like how important was that in your thinking, or was it we just need to jam these stores because they're going to be awesome? Now we have a whole e-com and delivery platform that that changes things dramatically.
Oh, the evolution of cannabis over a 3-year period is astronomical. Like it's just what we saw, and the plans that would have been had in 2019 dramatically changed going into spring and summer of 2020, and then continued to change each year as COVID continued, and government policy and public health, but also from delivery and curbside pickup, and what we saw from regulations lightening up there. But as we're seeing other provinces become more active in the retail space, as well as we've seen the changes that have happened in Alberta, the changes that are happening currently in BC, are we going to affect change and set the standard, being the largest province in Canada, to set the standard for them? Or are we potentially going to adapt some of the rules that they're implementing right now? And I think we really need to stay on point of what that conversation is to control the messaging and where we should be going as an industry.
I agree. So everybody should get together in June.
Everyone should be getting together in June. Absolutely.
I agree. And when we post this, we'll also have how to get in touch with the RCCO, so you can get understand how to be there, how to become a member, what the mandate is, what the responsibilities are, and how you can join Cameron outside or inside as well at Hotel X in June. So we'll post that then. I mean, I guess looking ahead, notwithstanding the AGM in June, like I don't know if this growth is sustainable, but like, what do you expect a year from now? Right, we're talking in April 2022, thinking about April 2023. Like, how does that impact sort of your business and what you're thinking about with this sort of ever increasing density of cannabis retail?
I think it's tough to say, because I think if you asked me that question a year ago, I wouldn't have said that we were going to be at 1,400 stores open today.
Right.
But I do see a lot of consolidation. I think you're starting to see a lot of that already. I think it's in an emerging market. I think that's standard. You're seeing it on the LP side. You're seeing it on the retail side already. So I think there's going to be some consolidation. Some brands are going to amalgamate, and we're going to continue to see that. At the same time, it's great that we have 1,400 stores. The question, I guess, still remains, is there enough differentiation on product to have multiple stores within the same block of each other? And making sure that everyone in Ontario has legal access to legal cannabis is still the priority. From the government side, from the retail side, there are still markets that don't have full access to legal cannabis. So there is still markets where cannabis stores can open without any saturation. But I do think we will start to see some shifts in the retail industry, especially in places like Toronto, Hamilton, Ottawa, where you saw a lot of saturation in the same block.
Yeah.
But I think some of the great things that we did on the panel with ORCAP as well, and really pushing with the OCS to get the flow-through model, is going to be a huge shift. I think in the consumer's eyes, where we can bring in a lot more products that the OCS doesn't have to warehouse anymore. LPs can get more products to market. Retailers can differentiate with a bigger variety. And I think that's where the future is going to be for cannabis, right? We have a lot of production in cannabis products that isn't getting to the consumer fast enough, I'd say. And I think that's where the next year will really start to evolve in more brands, more store brands, but also just more products getting to those consumers and seeing those stores differentiate a lot more.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, this is one thing we've been pushing so long for it. And, what we saw in 2019, it was as much criticism as the government took for the lottery system. Is I remember that summer not being able to order enough product to meet consumer demand. We just didn't have the product. And that was only with 24 stores open, right? So now we're saying, the OCS has 2,200 SKUs listed. We're talking about getting up to 5,000 SKUs by the end of the year. Like, we're talking big numbers and big increases where you can start to go to a store and not see the same SKUs as what you'll see at somebody across the street potentially. And I think that's a huge change that needs to happen.
Yep. And it puts the onus on retailers to do the same, right? To differentiate their experience from, staffing to product to array to design, all those things, which I'm sure will be part of the conversation at the AGM in June. We'll post how people can get there. Cameron, as always, thank you for stopping by. And it seems like the world has shifted dramatically since August 2019, and we'll connect with you again as it shifts over the next year as well.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me, Jay.
Okay, you got it. Bye-bye. That was BFC Live. If you like this program, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us wherever you find your podcasts. We're able to do what we do because of ongoing partnerships with Alterna Savings, Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, Can Delta, Gallagher, Headset, and Torque & Mains. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com.